Parramatta 16 beat the Storm 12. I thought Parramatta were absolutely sensational.
Yep.
So they were really good after we gave them a bit of a pot. Oh, not a bit of a pot, a big pot last week. I'll kick off a little bit here. Why not? I'll do your stats, Barney.
Right here. So 3 tries played,
I always forget his part.
2 out of 3 conversions for Parramatta, 2 out of 2 for the Storm. 89% completion for Parramatta and 79 for Melbourne. 37 out of 42 sets played, 37 out of 47. 2 line breaks for Parramatta, 4 for the Storm. 32 tackle busts, played 31. 10 offloads apiece. 1 forced dropout for Parramatta, 2 for the Storm. No 40-20s. 450 tackles for Parramatta compared to 382 for the Storm. 5 ruck infringements, played 4, 3 penalties apiece, 10 errors to 9. Mahoney made 59 tackles, Welch with 41, Sivo with 175 metres, and Pappenhausen with 249 metres. Supercoach points, Paulo with 84, Mahoney with 82, and Justin Olam with 79.
Back to what I was going to say. First of all, I think I have a man crush on Gutho. I think it's happened.
I'll second you.
Doesn't
I'm loving
he?
him at the moment.
I think he's
Doesn't he
outstanding.
look like Chris Evans, Captain America?
He does it.
Like, come on.
I hadn't thought of that.
And Chris
but okay.
Evans is a very good-looking man, so
He just
Good on the
busts his
king.
absolute
Good on the
backside, man, every week.
But you won't find a bloke
Busts
trying
his
harder,
ass.
bloke that's more important to a team. What did he save? I think it was another 2 tries he saved
Yeah.
on Friday night
Scored
to
one,
go
set
with his
one up.
2 that he saved against. I think it was 2 or 3 he saved against Brisbane.
3, I think it was, yeah.
He's just outstanding. He's always there. So in terms of that effort thing, he's got that. I'm not bagging Latrell, but he's got that little last. He's always
Yeah,
that
of
last
course.
man. He's got that Billy Slater thing that hey, even if you get through, he's going to be in that last tackle. I just thought he was outstanding, and a classic case of Supercoach not reflecting what the bloke actually did in the field. For those that really love their Supercoach points. Other thoughts from the game? I think Reid Mahoney. I thought he carried injuries all through last year, and he's clearly a better player than we showed last year because he's ascended to a different level. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. Papaihi actually made 43 tackles off the bench in addition to being one of their best forwards. And Junior Paulo for Parramatta, for me, is in the conversation for best front rower in the game. Absolutely tremendous.
He's as fit as we've ever seen him.
rocking
And
out
he's
some minutes.
just,
And playing on big minutes. So we'll go around the table quickly to your Parramatta thoughts. Barney.
The boxing training's obviously helped.
Yeah.
Helped Paulo.
Yeah.
As I said, he's fit as he's been for since I've ever seen him. Now, Papa Lee had a few raps on him at the Warriors, but he's even better than what he was last year.
Yeah.
He's absolutely killing it. He's been close to their best week in and week out as well. But talk about a form reversal. Jesus Christ. Compared to that first 40 minutes they put in against Brisbane and then come out and punch out just 80 minutes of really top-class footy.
Yeah.
It was highly impressive.
Your takeaway for Parramatta for
Yeah,
the week?
look, they were really, really good. Paulo is unbelievable at the moment with the go forward and the minutes he's playing. I thought it was really good, like with Blake out and Niokore out in the centres. I thought did a really good job for Para. Defended really well, strong in possession of the ball.
And I think Opachik is better than what we like. I think he's been good in the trials, and
Been
I think
solid
he's
without being impressive.
But I think he's they've got a reasonable centre combination for the next
Yeah.
couple of weeks at least. So.
Look, personally, going forward, when Blake comes back in, I'd probably have Niokore in front of Lane, personally, and maybe bring Lane off the bench. I think Niokore is probably a better proposition, but that's the coach knows better than me. But I'd probably have Niokore in there. I think he's just, I don't know, a bit more mongrel, I don't know, than Lane.
He
He's
was
a bit
fired up
soft at
on
times.
Thursday, that's for sure.
Yeah, so, yeah.
He was pretty good
Para
last
really
year though,
good.
as well, Nick.
He
right?
was,
I think he
yeah.
showed him. He was better than Lane
But
last year.
that battle between Niokore and Olam was probably worth the price of a
yeah,
ticket on
that's
its own,
tremendous.
mate. That was a
Beautiful.
massive battle. I
Both
just
as
love
crazy as
watching
cut
that.
snakes. It was great.
Yeah. Ollie, your immediate takeaways?
Oh, well, it was obviously a wet weather game of football, you could tell. The big thing that Para were able to do that last week the Rabbitohs weren't able to do and Penrith weren't able to do in the grand finals, they were able to stay on Melbourne's level for the first 20 minutes, and that was integral to the rest of the game, because if you can do that, then you've got a battle on your hands. If not, then Melbourne are probably going to run away with the game, and sure, you'll get a few tries in the second half and the game will look a bit more respectable, but Melbourne will be in control, and they never let Melbourne get in control. they let Melbourne look good. Melbourne was still good, and I think that's what was really impressive about Parramatta's performance as well. And yeah, look, it's the same people every week. Even last year that we were talking about, your Guthos, your Junior Paulos, and now Isaiah Papali'i is up on his level as well now.
Yeah. Just on the Storm, I've got a couple of questions just on their halves, to be honest. Their creativity, like Parramatta showed them up, I thought, a bit with their creativity compared to the Storm. I think they seem to be struggling with that link just between their halves and their outside
I
backs.
think it was shown. We talked a
It's
little
not
bit
gonna
about
happen
Cameron
all
Smith
year, of
last week,
course,
but you get those conditions 12 months ago. Cameron Smith kicks to the corner every time. He wouldn't even let his halves touch it. You just
And-
boot 40 metres and say we're going to tackle from the back from the 20.
And obviously the service out of dummy half's been a little below average for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Melbourne. Cheese, I thought he was crook. Like, I was watching that game going, the bloke's not well. There must be something wrong with him. I was watching the Foxtel coverage, and they kept cutting to him 20 metres behind the play of the ball. And
Sucking in
I'm
the big
going, do I
ones,
need to switch to Channel 9 to see if they're going, the bloke's had a gut full of gastro or something? Like, he did not look well. But I think he just couldn't keep up with the pace of the game.
Looked like
And he
it,
just, sadly, I love the bloke, but because then when he came back on in that last 15 minutes, he had some tremendous runs playing
Just running the lines.
second. He
running
just
straight.
ran, played as a second rower and was tremendous. I think he might have shown himself up as he's not a 80-minute hooker, and
Yeah, especially on a wet track.
you
Yeah.
know, he was like there
He looked
was
like
no
he was
support,
running in a
and there
bolt
was
there at
3
times, yeah.
tackles every set in that second half where he was not even getting to dummy it to the ruck.
Nah.
Does he need, for another club I'm talking about, does he need to be that 80-minute hooker though? Because some hookers can still be very good and play 60 minutes or
Yeah.
something.
Oh,
like
100%,
that,
100%.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go and try and command 800,000 as a
I suppose.
international hooker,
Has he trained to be an 80-minute hooker?
no, it's probably not.
in the
Probably
He's
not.
training to
off-season,
be a 40-minute back
correct.
rower.
Yeah.
Correct. I think with a year of training to be a 9, I don't think it'll be a problem for
Yeah.
him. But I know on the first week when I was on, I sort of spoke about Cameron Smith like we all did, and I think the proof in round 1 and 2 is that he's going to make an enormous difference. The first game against Souths, they were in front by 1 million and
Yeah.
probably should have got beaten.
Yes.
And then the other night against Parramatta, really, Melbourne were good.
Yeah.
And there wasn't much in the stats that Barney read out, but Cameron Smith plays in that game, Melbourne win.
Yeah, you would
I,
imagine.
I don't have too much doubt that
Actually,
Melbourne
you'd
win
say
that game.
in both games, because Cameron Smith, the last 20 minutes, just kicked the ball dead
Correct.
and set a line, and you'd come in, that'd be it.
Yeah, well,
getting
in this game, both halves did chip Brandon Smith at different points with his service out of dummy
I
half,
saw
getting
the-
balls on
the
the feet
Munster
and
one.
behind him, and yeah, and it's confusing their halves a little bit. Jerome Hughes looks a little bit lost. Doesn't seem to be setting up the structure for his outside backs and his second rowers, but.
Be interesting to see when Harry Grant comes back to see whether the service is a bit better and it looks
Oh, I
a,
think
bit,
for sure it
a
will.
bit sharper,
Yeah.
and you'd think it would be, but still.
Still no long.
he ain't
I don't
Cameron
think.
Smith.
I think Grant's got a long kicking game. He's a pretty good short kicking game, but he's not a 40-20 kicker from dummy half, which Cameron Smith was obviously.
Yeah. When talking about Melbourne as well, I don't think we can really gloss over the Jennings-Smith combination.
Oh, yeah, wasn't that
Like,
ugly at times?
They're going to be something's got to happen,
Oh,
right? Like
Jennings will go straight away.
Something's got to happen there because teams are literally just going to target that edge and they're going to get points like the Rabbitohs did and like the Eels did.
Well, I didn't think I'd ever hear myself saying this about Branko Lee because I
Yeah.
don't really rate him overly, but Melbourne must be busting a gut for him to come back.
Yeah, he'll go into the
really.
centres
And
and
Remus Smith will go into the
Remus
wing.
Smith will go into the wing,
Remus
yeah.
Smith's a good winger.
George
But he's
Jennings
not a good
was
centre.
dead set in the headlights at different times there.
He didn't even
the
try
other
and
night.
catch
He-
it. Sive, that was a good try, but Jennings
Oh.
didn't try and catch it.
No,
I
but
like-
yeah,
I know you don't want to mess up the flow too much or whatever, but when is Lee coming back? Because until then, do you shift some players around so that you don't have to have a Remus Smith and a Jennings on the same edge? Do you swap Olam and Remus Smith? Like, is that an option? So maybe you've at least got half an edge on both sides. Like,
Or
what
Jennings
do you
and
do?
Fox. Yeah.
I think
I
I
think they'll
can't
just stick with
imagine Bellamy will weaken a strength,
No.
so they'll
Okay.
just have to.
He
cop
might
it
even
for
put a
bit.
back rower in the centres and push Remus Smith onto the wing
Well,
if he
Yeah.
really wants to get rid of George Jennings.
Well, that Kamika was pretty good off the
He was
bench.
solid,
Someone like
yeah.
him maybe could defend that bit wider. The raps I'll give, Christian Welch was absolutely outstanding again. He's the Australian prop. I think he was outstanding. Nelson was great when he was on.
Well, the whole forward
He
pack
and even that second
pretty
half, he
solid.
got him back going again. Nelson came
Yeah,
back
yeah,
on
he
and
does.
reignited him.
absolute wrecking
Which
ball.
when he's
It's
8
just
foot
too hard
tall
to
and
stop.
400 kilos, I guess you'll do. Pappenhausen was outstanding again. Absolute. In wet conditions, the turn of footy's got in the wet, and the ability to sort of turn on a dime was tremendous. So all's not lost for the Storm.
The Storm are a little bit under par, and realistically, the only reason they lost was because of that combination that Ollie just mentioned in that corner. So, you know what I mean? And Para were pretty close to, I think they were right up there with some of the better footy I've seen out of them for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah,
so.
they couldn't have played too much better.
That was Para's. That was a good Para play.
That's nearly their best game.
Final word on a Para halves, because obviously we are quite critical, and they have a spotlight on Ollie. Moses, good, passable there, or
I'd say sort of bang on passable for this week. He's never the guy directing play, and he's never the reason why Para win, even in these big games. It's always other players. He's sort of there, so...
comes back to the Gutho thing.
Yeah,
You take
exactly.
Gutho out of there, you cut the head off the snake, so to speak.
As
Or
I
the
mentioned earlier, they won the battle this week. They're a bit more creative than the Melbourne halves were. And, yeah, we'll see them going forward. They're going to work on that combination. At times, they looked slick during last year, but they looked like rubbish at times as well. So I expect as much the same during the year this year.
The final word is Parramatta has like a dream draw for like the next 8 weeks. They will kill some teams if they play like that. And Mitchell Moses, I have him as a reserve halfback in Supercoach, for example. He will put some teams to the sword because he'll suddenly be on a flat track. And
Did you keep him or did you pay
I
him?
kept him.
I've got him draft captain this
Draft
week
because
I think
he's
he'll-
gonna find his feet all of a sudden, and for the next 3 months he'll be a freak, and then the finals will start looming. They'll win. They'll go close to winning the next 8 or 9 games. Para now.
Well, they've
On
got the
back of
next
that.
4 at Bank West.
Yeah, and at Bankwest is a big thing, and the Sevo record they keep banging on about at Bankwest. End of the day, that last play to win the game was a 40-metre kick to your wing is a sensational play. You've got to give him kudos where kudos is due, and to still beat the bloke and get over. So a great game of footy, loved it. Finals level intensity.